episode of the AryaPod. We have Sohil. Hi, Sohil. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Sunil. Good, good. How are you?
Doing
Thanks for
well.
having me.
Really excited to build on our conversation and talk everything on B2B marketing. Before we start, I'll just give a quick intro about Sohil. Sohil is a B2B marketing leader with over a decade of experience in demand gen and content led growth. Previously, having scaled a lot of global campaigns and having led high performing teams. Currently, Sohil has been leading marketing at Next Pathway.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to
Awesome.
our conversation.
So, well, firstly, just to for the audience, if you could talk about your journey in marketing, how did it start, and how are you feeling across the board? Yeah.
I started in sales like I worked in sales for 5, 6 years. All the way when I was in high school, I was doing a lot of sales. In Canada, we have like these telemarketing centers. I'm sure they have them globally, and I worked for Rogers Telecommunication, newspaper, etc. I really loved it. All this while I was going to school, and then I went to school. I studied, programming, mobile application development, all that kind of good stuff. And then I started working at a marketing company where I was building websites, databases, back-end development, front-end development. And whilst I was doing all that, and I know Google, like I understand the technology. So I was, working on SEO sometimes slowly. We could rank a page pretty quickly because I understand the hands-on approach to ranking a page along with the content that goes on it. So I started slowly getting into marketing as I was working for a marketing company. I enjoy sales. So for me, marketing it comes natural. And I started working on some tracking for Google. This is way long time ago. And a little bit of Google ads. And, I said, let me optimize this campaign while I'm building these websites. Give me an account. I'll have a lot of fun with it. And then slowly I said, why don't I sell this account while I'm still continuing being a developer? But why don't I do sales sometimes? I like sales. I have a lot of sales experience. I had more sales experience than programming experience. So I started selling marketing initiatives, as you would call it. And that's where the journey began, where it wasn't, I'm a very hands-on marketer, as you would call it. Web development, programming, SEO, Google ads. Like I love being hands-on, and I think that's where it started for me.
Amazing. Could you also tell us about your current role and how you're managing scaling your current demand gen at Next Pathway?
Currently, I work at Next Pathway. I lead the marketing initiatives, digital marketing specifically. We have a global team, which is beautiful. We have some people also working in India for us, performance marketing, creative lead positions that come out of specifically working in India, and it's great. We cater to the global market. So, marketing not just in Canada, in the US, in EMEA, just globally. And the aim here for us is to have this global brand that not only has brand recognition but it has the ability to be found anywhere in the world. And I
Mhm.
think that's what we're good at, and that's how we win. So if you want to know Next Pathway, wherever you are, and you type in cloud migration, any country in the world, you're gonna see us top 3, 4 search results depending on where you are. And that's the goal. We are carrying a brand in which and creating demand for the content, not only in the cloud space but in the technology space. And what we do is we migrate legacy systems to the cloud. Legacy system means we're migrating people from Netezza, from IBM data stage, these outdated technologies, to then work into Azure, work into Snowflake, AWS,
Got it.
etc. And we translate this code using our proprietary technology. And the goal of marketing is to get this technology in front of the leaders in these Fortune
Understood.
500 companies.
At the same time, Soil, but how are you tackling different geographies? You're doing this at a global scale. And in my understanding and learnings, every geography and country has a different taste to marketing. So what's working in US might not work in India compared to the MENA countries, for example. So how are you dealing with all of this?
In all honesty, like I said, I come from a programming background, so I'm leading in this marketing initiatives at a tech company. So where we come from, our language doesn't change. If I'm talking to a CTO in Canada, if we're talking to a CTO in the US and in the EMEA and in India, they all understand Netiza to Snowflake. They're all on a journey. They're ready to go. They need to migrate this legacy system to that cloud provider. And what they're looking for is automation. They're looking for AI. You know, AI is a good buzzword. They're looking for technology to accelerate this migration. So the idea that, you know, people always say different markets, different personas. I like to think different markets, same personas. We're all talking to technology leaders, whether it's here, there, or there. It doesn't really make a
Understood.
difference. The thing that makes a difference is the cost per acquisition in these countries. That's where the challenge is how do you optimize your budget to keep a CPL down or your cost per lead down and continue winning wherever you're spending money, right? I could my cost per lead in Canada could be, let's say, $150. In the US is $200. In the UK, let's say it was $100. Now some
Mm,
technologies are booming and it became $300. So budget optimization is one of those things that on a global scale you would have to, you know, tweak and make sure that your spending your spend
mhm.
is actually driving results and driving revenue.
Understood. Since we are talking about ROI, can you also talk about in your experience what channels you really love? Also, few underrated channels you feel are really emerging well in 2025.
You know, I've had the pleasure of using many channels. I enjoy right now the biggest channel that we utilize the most is LinkedIn.
Mhm.
LinkedIn allows me to custom create my ICP to what makes sense because not every, you know, in reality, marketing has to do with your ideal customer profile. In today's time where AI and automation and everything is at the power of our hands, there's no excuse for your ads to show up to the wrong people. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I say this bluntly, people don't understand. There's no excuse for you to spend $100,000 and show it to the wrong people because what happens is we're able to get data from all these platforms that, you know, match the goals that we set out to get. We set out to show, for example, ad to, you know, let's say 1 million people. But those 1 million people have to be senior software developers, senior technology leaders. When I say senior, anybody with 7, 8 years of experience. You
Yeah.
know, we want people in the industry to get to know us. So
Yeah.
now I'm trying to show this advertisement to the right people. And LinkedIn has done a really good job in being able to do that.
Mhm.
So my favorite channel today is LinkedIn because our brand predominantly focus on technology leaders, and for the brand to grow you have to show the content to, you know, this type of a persona, and it works best on LinkedIn. We use Google Ads. Google Ads are great. I've been using them for a long time. They capture, and now they have really nice optimizations. It's all about optimizing the ad campaigns, and it's able to
Mhm.
capture what we wanted to capture. I think that, you know, for a while I wasn't into X, into Twitter as you would call it, but I see Twitter changing, and I think that, you know, some people might say it's not underrated, but I think that SaaS companies will use, you know, when I first came into technology marketing, they said, you know, we don't use Facebook, we don't use
Yeah.
Instagram, we're focused on LinkedIn heavy. But you know, our partner Snowflake, for example, loves to blast the Snowflake Facebook campaign, loves to blast that Instagram campaign. And when you see companies like Databricks, like Snowflake, like AWS, you know, throwing X amount of budget dollars into, you know, a platform, social platform like Facebook, it shows you that although Facebook is a great platform, it's underrated for tech, but it's moving
Mm,
because
got
of
it.
that. It's able to create that ICP.
Yeah.
It can do targeting to tech individuals. It can do a better job at displaying the ads to the right people and closing them. So I think that, there's a shift, and the shift is these platforms utilizing AI and whatever else they can utilize to build better ICP campaigns. That's the reality.
And just a quick question on the previous LinkedIn part. So are you slicing and dicing your audiences and creating a different forms of messaging, or are you running any form of ABM there? Is that working well for you, or is it more product based, one messaging for all kind of
It's
campaigns?
product based. It's product based. And the reason behind it is we did a lot of ABM. We did some ABM with you as well. We did a lot of ABM. ABM is a really good approach. We use bent leads, and we did ABM at a very high level where now you have to answer 5 questions, and upon 5 questions now that's considered a lead, and I'll pay X amount of dollars for it. High
Yeah.
amount of dollars for it, right? But product led growth, kind of that strategy where, yes, you are acquiring, yes, you have this acquisition channel, we have that, ARR strategy where acquisition matters, but product led growth is really what drives here. And when I say that, in our case, in the case of Next Pathway, we are the global leaders of cloud migration. So it doesn't matter which account it is, because I'm already firing at, Fortune 500 companies. I'm already showing this to the big guys, and that to their data teams, their cloud teams, their architecture teams. So for them, they have to see us as technology leaders. And I don't need to run like multiple ABM campaigns. We do have campaigns with different messaging, but they're not constantly changing. We want them to see the same message. The mantra here is, in order for, and I had this conversation with someone the other day. They said, what's the idea here? I said, I show this to a million people, and a company says, I need to migrate, and they come on LinkedIn to check me out, because that's what they do. They have it on their phones. And now,
Mhm.
as they're scrolling down, they say, wow, I love these guys. I love these guys. And the idea is that that type of building, that type of branding really requires, a solid content strategy. So
Mm.
LinkedIn, LinkedIn is, how do you say it? It is that tool that if you figure it out, if you figure out how to blend this into your brand, how to use it to your advantage, you'll see its fruits for a long time. Like
Mm.
Google Ads, you can spend 100 grand and come out with like 200 leads, because a
Understood.
cost per lead is like $300 somewhere in the world. But the same 100 grand into a LinkedIn campaign, and a couple of million people now saw your ads, right?
Understood. And
So,
since we are now talking about channels, I would like to make it more on the growth side of how are you building teams. I see that you have scaled up different forms of teams. Tell me your strategy as a marketer and having been in this space now over a decade. That how what are the main nuances one should be aware of when the person is hiring, building a right team for their marketing departments.
I've been doing building these teams for a while, and really finding the right talent, it is challenging. A lot of people will say there's a lot, like sometimes, we get resumes, there's like through 300 of them, right? And you go through them and you really hope that you bring in the right talent. To me, the right talent means marketing growth, revenue growth. If I
Mm.
can find the right creative person, I'm growing 8 times 10, 20, 30, and it's just one person, right? If I find the right performance marketing guy who's just not about Google ads and LinkedIn ads, who really sees the data to drive the initiatives. You get what I'm trying to say? He's not just a Google guy. He's saying, I'm a data guy. I'm a marketing guy, but I'm a data guy. So really finding this type of talent could be challenging. And from my experience, we narrow them down to our top three. We give them a little, I don't want to say a little assignment, but really we give them a small presentation of some sort that will, and what that does for us is we see their ability to, either they're looking at this from a data point of view or just plain ads. Or are they looking at this creative from a brand point of view, or are they just trying to plaster some colors on? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
our tests are not meant to test your Photoshop skills, to test your Google Ads skills. When we put these things together to grow these teams, call them tests, but these little projects, they are to check that, do you recognize the needs of the brand? When you're going to grow a team and you want that 5-star player, you want, Virat Kohli, is that what, the good guy? You need to know, does he recognize your brand needs? I'm not
Hmm.
talking about global brand needs. Did he
Hmm.
do the right homework? And the biggest challenge I faced always when I'm hiring these individuals is they don't do any homework. So here's the positive tip. This is the best tip to get somebody a job, that you got to be able to do your homework, because these same people will say, I'm going to give you $20,000. I need, this much cost per lead. And this is my ICP. How do you do it? Write me a little ad copy.
So it is it true from when you speak about data, would that be relevant for all the roles? Also, are there any other soft skills you're looking at hiring for different kind of roles?
My favorite soft skill that gets people a job, that's really, the one that really, really, I love this. And some people would consider this a hard skill, but to your point, these are like marketing people, or these are data people, or they're developers, or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Like, what's the thing that really differentiates them? I say it's communication. Communication is the key to winning, key to having that star player. If you can communicate with this star player, if they can communicate with you. So the people I really love, they stand out the most. Yes, sure, they have a million years of Google Ads experience. They've worked on branding for a long time. But are they able to communicate? So one of the things we do when we ask them to do these little projects or present to us 5, 10 minutes, is really have a look, like, does this person, can they convey, as you know best, this is what you do this. When you're building these teams, it's not just about a guy who can conquer the mountain, but it's also about a guy who can tell you how he did it. How he did it. Can
And
he
pass on the
communicate?
knowledge to somebody else.
Exactly. Can he
Yeah.
communicate the how? If he can
Yeah.
communicate the how, you've got the winner. Because
Mm.
even if someone is wrong, you can help them, you can mentor them. We do a lot of mentorship here. You can mentor them, you can
Mm.
grow them, you can really, pass your knowledge to them. But there are people who have poor communication skills, who don't bother at all, and I feel that
Mm.
that's a weakness for most people.
So there can be an individual who's very highly skilled but bad with communication, but there could be an individual who's maybe 50% to that person in terms of skill, but a great communicator. So who
Yeah.
would you like to work with?
I hired the great communicator, and believe me, oh my goodness. And I loved it. I took this chance once, and I'll tell you that the great communicator understands. The biggest challenge we face. Look, if I'm going into hiring a person, and now my goal is to expand my brand, to show it to more people. It's all about branding, yeah? Although we have these channels where leads come, but it's mostly about branding. Technology leaders need to see us as leaders in this space. So now I have to communicate this to a new hire. How much of this can they absorb, right? Remember, I'm hiring in India and etc. So how much of this can they absorb? And if I find the right absorber, believe me you, so the person with the 100% skills versus the 50, now this person can take their 50% skills to 100 extremely fast, because they're able to talk. They're talking,
Yeah.
they're learning, they're communicating, they're doing research, they're understanding the brand, and they're able to ask the right questions to say, is this the right persona? Am I looking at this thing? Again, I'm all for this, and out of my experience, because I've hired people with, or I've worked with people with, although they have great communication skills, some of them don't. And I think you can mentor someone in many, many ways, but I
Mhm.
feel like communication is something that they've got to work on.
Understood. Got it. Awesome. So let's talk about the role of technology and AI now, the most exciting topic currently. How's that impacting things you're doing currently at Next Pathway? Also, how are you seeing that in marketing as well as currently people who are looking out for different jobs? What are the things in terms of AI and technology they should be aware of?
That's a really good question. AI is really, our technology has a lot of AI functions in it. AI is really good to automate repetitive tasks, to be I don't want to call it the butler, but to be the butler. Let's cancel that part. We'll see the butler see it and they'll get upset. Okay, we're gonna start again. Once I called it a butler and someone got upset. No, they didn't get upset, but you see, you're picking on a butler. I'm not picking on a butler. Anyway, let's go back to your question.
Yeah,
We'll say,
I can reframe it. So
Okay.
I would ask you about more on the side of technology and AI now. So how is that paradigm shift happening across for you? Are people scared as well in terms of finding their next jobs? What they should be aware of? Let's start with marketing first, since a lot of our ICP are from marketing background. We can start there.
I'm doing an executive MBA and it's, specializes in AI. And what I learned from, not just academic study, but hands-on study is that AI is really good at performing tasks, doing things, but it's not going to replace human beings, right? So people are
Mhm.
scared of their jobs. They need to utilize AI technology, ask it, right? You're having a problem with some campaign somewhere in the world, ask it. Say, do I need to change my messaging, right? It understands. So really, I think utilizing AI to grow your career is a very sweet spot. Being scared that it'll take your job and probably will, because to your earlier question, what do you look for in a person? We look for someone who is willing to take chances, who says, you know what, I love marketing today. I love the fact that I have my own personal 5-star consultant. I can go
Mhm.
to them. I can reform work on my campaigns. I can get input back and I can really put that input into improvements. So I think that, people shouldn't be scared of losing their jobs. People should be embracing AI. People should be learning about AI. People should be refining their skills with AI, right? But I think those people that are newly skilled, they have to take some time, get mentored, learn marketing, learn to understand that marketing is the driving factor for businesses that are, looking to increase their revenue, looking to increase their brand awareness, etc., right? So AI is really the perfect assistant for a
Mm.
marketing person, in my opinion.
And specifically, somebody who is doing it or learning it for the first time, how do they evolve in this space? If they don't know anything about how do I go about it? So,
They have to start somewhere, right? I mean, you want to work in marketing or you want to work in sales, you got to start somewhere. Wherever you start, that's where you start using it. If you're a guy who's an account executive or you're pitching sales or you're selling, some technology or not just technology, you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. You're a coordinator. There was a time where we had a coordinator and she was doing manual tasks. And HubSpot is so good at automating. And you know what we did? We used custom HubSpot capabilities. We really turned that whole, all the manual tasks into automation. And now she was able to get 100% results. Pull the data, it's very accurate rather than,
mm,
pulling here, working on Excel files. So you have to be, the best thing to do here for these young individuals is learn to take initiative. That
and if
means
you
utilize AI, figure it out. I always say this, figure it out. Now is the time where you could figure anything out, in my opinion. You could literally figure anything out. There's no excuse for you. And technology leaders and marketing leaders need to do a better job mentoring.
if you
I don't want to
also
take that away.
Yeah. If you see the current list of jobs which are really spiking up well in the last 1 year, some of them has been GTM engineers. If you have seen it, all of these are AI-led roles where there's a lot of automation requirement across different platforms like Clay, HeyReach, N8, N8, and Make.com, all of that. And there have to be individuals who have to start learning this really at a faster pace. So
Absolutely. They need to
yeah.
understand mathematics, and we always say this. There are people who say, I'm not good at math. You got to be good at logic. Basic math, right? Do you know what I mean? If you want to use
Mm,
clay or whatever it is that you want to use, if like I mentioned earlier, automation took somebody out of 40 hours of work who would, take 20 hours putting this file together, this file together, this file together. And then, we built this automation into HubSpot that can pull all those files into one window and give me exactly what I'm looking for.
exactly.
So like really, it's like a 2-minute export versus 20 hours of work. So
Yeah.
I think that people should understand that this is going to be a requirement, that you need to learn to automate. You need to understand, you know, like when we started this and you say, how'd you get into marketing? How about Google Analytics? And how about putting tags onto websites and onto buttons because they said, oh, here's a campaign, can you tag this for us? We need to count the number of times it gets clicked. Yeah, no problem. And now I start putting that together. I say, hey, I'm a programmer. This is so easy for me. It took you 20 hours to figure out how to tag this page. I did it in, an hour or 2 hours, right? Because it's so easy for me. I could go into the back and go boom, 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 boom. Now all of a sudden I'm tracking the entire page, whilst it would take a marketing person like 20 hours to figure out how do I do this or how do I do that, or it's a whole website. It's got 20 pages. I
Yeah.
gotta. The point I'm trying to make is we as human beings, when we see evolution, we need to evolve. It's very
Understood.
important. We cannot just stay tied, right? Marketing in people in any field, right? Look at software developers. Now they're talking to the co-pilot, right? They're saying, "Hey, build me a function that does this," and it brings the code, and they
Code
copy,
and
they
boom.
paste, they put it together. It's done. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And we always see this as people see this as my job's gonna go away.
Mm.
Imagine if you saw this as my job's gonna get
Get
easier
better.
and better. I'm gonna love it. I want to use clay, for example.
Yeah.
Look at what it's gonna do for me. I'm so excited. I say, but how do I get it done? It looks foggy. It's not foggy. You have to dare to try. And I think people with business backgrounds and marketing, etc., they have to
Got it.
start getting their hands.
And talking about evolving, Sohail, somebody who has just started marketing and want to be a marketing leader like you, what are the two, three things they have to be on top of their game? What are those areas you would like to highlight?
I think number one is research. And someone might say, why research? If you look at it, how many tools do you see as a CEO every day for marketing? All the time. You're gonna have this copy AI and you're gonna have that AI and that AI.
Everywhere.
So now marketers are like, which ones should I use? Right? So what I'm trying to say is, and then there's all these visual tools where before I'm making a graphic that says, download my guide, here's a checklist. And now I can punch in a little script, click enter, and it's a real life looking human being who says, here's a case study, download it. And that's where it's getting at. So I think that people who are starting out in marketing need to become really good at research, one. And number two, they have to become master experimentals. They need to
Mm.
experiment. If you don't experiment with these AI technologies, you're going to fall behind. You have to say, you know what? I'm going to take a little script. I'm going to get that free version. I'm going to toss it in just to see what it looks like. And marketing leaders, they love the initiative that comes out of these type of things. So if you
And they're
want to
okay to
grow your
fail. And
yeah,
they're pretty open to fail. Like it's okay.
absolutely. Everyone's open and no one says it's got to be perfect, but you
Yeah.
love the person who says, I dare to try. You
Yeah.
get what I mean? You got to go try it. So these young guys who are today trying to become the leaders of tomorrow in marketing, especially, they have to run with the race, right?
Mm.
And they got to experiment and they have to show that, look, you know what? I'm taking initiative. So number three, number one, we said research. Two, we
Research.
said dare to try. And three, what did I call it? I slipped my mind now. But the idea is you have to take initiative. Number three was taking initiative. Yeah. You got to take initiative. And that's what I see a lot of people lacking, taking initiative.
And I think communication is an overall arching theme for all of this three.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
Mm.
saying. Communication is king. You want to hire the performance guy? Make sure he can communicate well because he's going to be dealing with 50 tools. And now he has to report. He has to say, Mr. CMO, I need budget 20,000 here, 10,000 here,
Yeah.
15,000 here because these tools are great. And
Yeah.
if he doesn't do that, now the CMO is going to say, are you experimenting? Are you looking out? What are you doing? So my point to make here is that in order for you to really grow and you have to take initiative. Yeah.
So also, let's talk about you. Like, how do you de-stress yourself? I mean, there is so much of analytics data every day, so much of campaign understanding and making it scale, building teams, having been in this space for over a decade now. So, what are the other things one should be taking care of?
It's always a very busy time, especially
Mm.
in today's time, because we have massive content strategies. We have these AI tools that they'll help you come up with ideas for your content for all different things. And then your data, like you said, it's a lot. It's a lot to come into one plate. And I love to start my day with a nice workout. I love to go to the gym first thing in the morning, get some chia water in, and just have an exercise. I feel that the need for the brain to start fresh, because there's always something to conquer. Just need to realize as they're growing, they're going to come to a conclusion that there's always something to conquer every single day, because it's a race, right? We're an enterprise. So it's a race. Everyone's marketing has to be on point. Everyone's moving fast. Everyone's creating content. And then there's this co-marketing that comes a part of in the partnership space that now you have to build that. So what I'm trying to say is, to your point, there's a lot going on. And I love to start my day with some gratitude, with an exercise, get some oxygen in, and then I'm one of those people. I think attitude matters, and attitude brought me here today, in my opinion. And I think it's your attitude that will take you to see a better day tomorrow. I don't think there's any one perfect day. I think that if you're playing, you have to learn to lose and you have to learn to win.
Yeah. Any sports or anything else,
Uh,
like
you
in
know,
terms of you?
I love to exercise, and my go-to sport today nowadays is swimming. I
Lovely.
really enjoy swimming, and I will give myself time once or twice a week where I don't only swim, I'll go into the steam spa and I'll go into, do the jacuzzi and really relax. You have to relax, I think. And you also need to turn your computers off after looking at them for 10 hours. This is just my opinion.
Even
You know,
mobile phone.
Everything, just put it away. Just put it away. Spend time with your family. I'm a big advocate. If you talk to some people on my team, I tell them, why don't you take a vacation? It's been months. Take a
Yeah.
day off. Go out. I'm all for making sure that the people around us do really feel comfortable, right? I get it. People love to work hard. Some of our guys in India, sometimes I notice it's been months. I don't see any vacation requests here. So, then I'll be talking to them. And like I said, here's where the empathy comes in. As leaders, we have to have empathy, right? And
Mm.
we'll tell them, why don't you take a day off, go for a vacation? You got like 2, 3 weeks here, you're not using it. So really, I think people need to relax because it's information overload, right? In the
Yeah.
past, any job didn't have this much information. Today, we're constantly
So much.
asking questions from AI, and
Yeah.
and and we're constantly answering questions to other people, to different things, because it's I think I used to hear this term when I was younger, is that they say it's the age of information because of the internet. I think today is the age of information because of the AI, But in all honesty, I think we need to learn to put the technology away when we're done and really enjoy some family time, go to the gym,
Mm.
exercise, do something that's going to make you wake up the next day and you're ready to conquer again. It's a mountain, right?
Yeah. And finally, like if you could go back and, give your younger self one piece of career advice, what would it be?
I have a lot of these because, after doing it for many years, then I said, I want to become a physician. My father was a physician. So, and I don't want to go through med school. I love, learning and studying. So what I tell my younger self is don't be afraid to explore. Life is not set. If you're looking for money, if you're looking for position and you're looking, there's some people who got it. They say, I want to be CPA. I want to do, CPA. I want to be a chief technology officer, whatever. They have that tunnel vision. They can do it. But there are people who are creative, whose minds are expanding. They're constant learners. I think that these individuals, they need to not be afraid to explore. So my advice to the young me and all the other young folks is that don't be afraid to explore. It's only going to make you better.
And I think the more experience you have, you're going to use it somewhere or the other,
Oh
future.
yeah, absolutely. You're gonna love it. Today I love it. I really enjoy learning.
Mm.
And since AI came out, I've just been so excited every day. I have a lot of books here in my library, but every day I'm just talking to it. And it's not just about marketing. Maybe I want to know something in history. Maybe I want to know something in science. Maybe I want to know how these cells are absorbing water or whatever it is. And I
Mm.
like the fact that I can go to, a computer and just I'm not looking for an article that explains this thing and I could just ask it. I think for anybody, any individual that's open to learning, that enjoys learning, oh man, AI is their best friend, you know?
Yeah. There are a lot of folks who are just having conversation with AI. Now it could be a lot of personal stuff, not just work, and they're just having a chit chat about the
Yeah.
problems they are facing, how I deal with it.
Yeah. 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 I wouldn't do
Crazy.
that.
It could
Yeah.
be a therapist actually.
Yeah, it could be, but I wouldn't do that. If you want
Yeah.
therapy, go to the human who can empathize with you, who can see, who has that empathy in them, you know? I think if you want to know, what happened in 300 years ago in this part of India, absolutely, you're gonna love it.
Just go ahead.
You walk into one of those historical places and you're like, who built this? How many, how long did it take? And now in like 5 minutes, you're like, Mommy, I know everything about this place, And then now your mom is impressed with you too. But what I'm trying to say is we should use technology to really
Wow.
better ourselves, to enjoy it, to love it. But we
Yeah.
should not forget the human interaction, right? There's a lot of people, to your point, do that. And I'm not for it. My children, one of them is big enough to I have all these things that I turn them off in my house. Even my TV, you can ask it, hey, Google, give me this. I make sure that thing is off. There's no hey, Google in my house because I don't want this girl to go to Google and ask it the question. I want her to come to me. You know what I mean?
Got it.
Because I want to have that interaction. I don't want her to rely on Google for things. Because sooner than later, it's not going to be like, hey, Google, what time is it? It's going to be like, hey, Google, I'm depressed and what do I
Please
do?
cheer me up.
I'm serious. I rather me be the one who cheers you up because, in the machine, because I don't know what the machine's gonna say, right? The machine's gonna, like who knows, right? It's
Yeah.
really good at doing things. Like I said, it's a task. It's a
Yeah.
task, right? It's not, can you imagine? Like,
Yeah.
but
So
anyway,
I echo your thoughts totally, Soil, and that brings pretty much to our end of our conversation. I think there's a lot of value for youngsters to take away from our discussion today,
again.
specifically on how to build career, what's happening on marketing, and our
Mhm.
favorite AI.
Yeah.
Great, Soil. It was great
Yeah.
catching up, and thanks for joining us for the
Right.
session.
Thank you
A lot
so
of
much.
value, and really
Um,
appreciate.
yeah.
Thank you for watching the podcast till the end. If you like the session or if you have any feedback, be it critical, positive, do drop a comment in the comment section for us. It really helps us to improve the quality, and we know that what is the content you would really love. Also, do share the content with any of your loved ones. They could, scale up their career, do wonders with a very small insight too. So looking forward to it, and stay tuned for our next session. Thank you.